My own daughter called me a worthless has-been who didn't deserve to live in her house. I'm Rick Patterson, and I've spent 27 years building something my daughter never bothered to understand. She demanded my $2.8 million Hill Country ranch for her oil executive boyfriend, posted about it on Instagram for her 450,000 followers to see, and gave me 24 hours to pack my stuff and get out. What she didn't know was that I didn't just own that ranch. I owned the Dallas penthouse she thought was hers too. And by sunrise, both were gone. I didn't argue, I didn't shout. I just picked up my phone and made 3 calls. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Because this story starts 3 decades ago when I made a promise to myself about the difference between giving someone everything and teaching them to value anything. That promise would cost my daughter more than she ever imagined. Most people look at me and see exactly what my daughter Amanda sees. A guy in his early 60s who drives a 12-year-old Ford F-150 with faded blue paint and 190,000 miles on it. Someone who shops at Walmart for $15 flannel shirts and brings $18 wine to dinner parties where everyone else drops $200. Amanda Patterson Douglas, 32 years old, 450,000 Instagram followers, and absolutely convinced that her old man is an embarrassment. "Dad, you literally look homeless," she told me last month when I showed up to her birthday party. "Tyler's friends are going to think I come from nothing." Tyler Douglas III, oil dynasty heir, a $180 million family empire, drives a $300,000 McLaren, and wears watches that cost more than most people's annual salary. The warning signs started 8 months ago. Amanda began referring to my Austin ranch as the family property in conversations, then my future inheritance, then just my ranch. It was subtle at first. During family dinners, she'd casually mention renovations she wanted to make or talk about hosting Tyler's business associates there. I thought it was just daydreaming about the future. "When Tyler and I get married, we'll obviously need the ranch," she announced over dinner one evening, cutting into her $75 steak like she was discussing the weather. "You can move into something smaller, more appropriate for your stage of life. Appropriate for my stage of life." That phrase stuck with me like a splinter. The second warning came when she started posting Instagram stories from my living room without asking. The captions grew bolder. Family planning sessions, then discussing property transitions, and finally, some people need to learn when it's time to step aside. Each post gathered hundreds of comments from her followers, and I started paying attention to what they were saying. "Girl, just take what's yours. Old people don't need ranches. Your dad's had his time. It's your turn now. Inheritance is just delayed gratitude. He should be grateful you're taking care of things." Amanda screenshotted the most supportive comments and sent them to me in text messages. "See, Dad? Even strangers understand the situation better than you do." I never responded to those texts. I just saved them all in a folder on my phone. What Amanda didn't know was that I'd been watching her Instagram activity for months. Not just the stories from my house, but everything. Her lifestyle content featuring the Dallas penthouse I pay $12,000 monthly rent for. The unboxing videos of the $45,000 Birkin bag I bought for her graduation. The car reviews of the Range Rover with $125,000 in lease payments coming directly from my account every month. In her world, she'd earned every bit of it through her influence and social media savvy. I was just the lucky guy who'd inherited one ranch and somehow stumbled into enough money to support her lifestyle. The narrative she'd built for herself was elaborate and complete. "My dad's kind of a handyman type," I overheard her telling Tyler's mother at a charity gala last spring. "Blue-collar background, you know? He tries his best, but he doesn't really understand how things work in our social circle. Our social circle." As if the foundation she stood on had materialized from thin air. Tyler found this backstory charming. "It's so refreshingly authentic," he told his oil executive friends within my earshot. Amanda's keeping it real despite all her advantages. Her advantages. The ones that apparently existed independent of any source or sacrifice. But the breaking point wasn't her assumptions about my intelligence, her public dismissal of my worth, or even her growing sense of entitlement. The moment that changed everything happened 3 weeks ago when Amanda brought Tyler to the ranch for what she called a family dinner, but felt more like a property assessment. They walked through my home like prospective buyers, Tyler measuring walls with his eyes, and Amanda pointing out features that needed updating. He'd pull out his phone to take photos of room layouts while she discussed traffic flow and entertainment spaces. "The kitchen definitely needs a complete gut renovation," Amanda said, running her manicured fingers along my perfectly functional granite countertops. "Maybe we can get contractors out for estimates while Dad's still here. While I'm still here. In my own ranch that I'd purchased with money I'd earned through 27 years of methodical property investment." "Dad," Amanda said as they prepared to leave, Tyler already backing his McLaren out of my driveway. "Tyler and I have been talking with his parents about the property situation. We're ready to take over the management responsibilities. You've done your part, but it's time for people who actually understand real estate to handle things moving forward. People who actually understand real estate." I nodded calmly and told them to drive safely. That night, Amanda had no idea she'd just activated something that would change both our lives forever. The text message arrived at 7:45 the next morning while I was drinking coffee on my deck, watching the sunrise paint the hill country in shades of gold. Amanda had never been an early riser, so receiving anything from her before 10 a.m. meant she'd either stayed up all night planning or this was important enough to set an alarm. "Dad, Tyler and I have made a decision. We need you out of the ranch by next Friday. We're having the locks changed this weekend and starting renovations Monday. I've already contacted a realtor friend who specializes in senior housing to help you find something more suitable for your budget and lifestyle needs." Your budget, your lifestyle needs. She'd somehow convinced herself that she understood my financial situation better than I did. I called her immediately. She answered on the fourth ring with the slightly irritated tone of someone who'd been forced to wake up earlier than usual. "Amanda, we need to talk about this message." "There's really nothing to discuss, Dad. I'm 32 years old, I'm getting married, and I need to start building the life Tyler and I have planned. You can't expect me to wait indefinitely for you to make room. Make room." In the ranch I'd purchased 15 years ago, with money from my first major property flip. "Dad, come on. You have to see this makes sense. The ranch is family property. It should naturally transition to the next generation when the time comes. Tyler's parents have already offered to help cover your moving expenses, and they know some excellent senior living communities in the area. Tyler's parents, offering to pay my moving expenses to leave my own property. Amanda, what if I said no?" She actually laughed. A genuine from-the-belly laugh, like I'd told her the best joke she'd heard all week. "Dad, please be realistic here. You can't afford to maintain a $2.8 million property on whatever retirement savings you have. The property taxes alone are probably killing you. The insurance, the maintenance, the utilities. This arrangement is better for everyone involved. Whatever retirement savings I have, property taxes that are probably killing me. Amanda, do you have any idea how I've been affording this ranch for 15 years? Inheritance, right? Grandpa left it to you when he died, along with some money to cover expenses. Look, Dad, I'm genuinely grateful for everything you've provided over the years, but I need to think about my future now. Tyler and I have actual business plans, real goals. Actual business plans, real goals, as opposed to whatever I'd been doing with my time for the past 3 decades. And what happens if I simply refuse to leave? Dad, please don't make this more difficult than it needs to be. Tyler's father knows property law inside and out. He explained that squatters' rights don't apply to family inheritance disputes. Since you never established a proper trust or estate planning structure, we can work through this legally if we have to. Squatters' rights, for living in my own ranch. I'd need to see any legal documentation in writing before making any decisions. Of course, Tyler's sending a courier with papers this afternoon. But please remember, we're trying to handle this the cooperative way. Don't force us to involve attorneys and make everything complicated. She hung up before I could respond. I sat in my kitchen, looking out at the rolling hills through windows I'd watched countless sunrises through, and realized with crystal clarity that my daughter genuinely believed she was doing me a favor. In her mind, she was the responsible adult stepping in to manage an elderly parent's failing finances before things got out of hand. The legal documents arrived by courier at exactly 2 p.m. Expensive letterhead, professional formatting, the kind of presentation designed to intimidate people who couldn't afford equivalent representation. Douglas and Associates, Tyler's father's firm. The language was polite, but unmistakably threatening. Notice of intent to resolve property inheritance dispute, read the header in bold, official-looking font. The document gave me 30 days to transition ownership of the Austin Hill country property to Amanda Patterson Douglas, or face formal legal proceedings to resolve the inheritance dispute through appropriate channels. Inheritance dispute. For a ranch I'd purchased with a cashier's check drawn from my business account. The timeline they had outlined was detailed and non-negotiable. Week 1, pack personal belongings and prepare for relocation. Week 2, coordinate with Amanda's selected realtor to identify suitable alternative housing within my budget range. Week 3, finalize all property transfer documentation. Week 4, complete the move and surrender all keys, security codes, and access credentials. They'd even included a helpful calculation of my estimated monthly living expenses, based on what they termed typical retirement income for individuals of your professional background. The figure they had arrived at was not just insulting, it was roughly 1/3 of what I actually spent on property taxes alone. But the paragraph that really caught my attention was buried in the middle of the second page. We understand this transition may be emotionally challenging, but we remain confident that this arrangement serves everyone's long-term financial interests, including your own stability and peace of mind during your retirement years. My own stability. They were convinced they were saving me from financial ruin by taking my property. I read through the entire document 3 times, then walked to my home office and opened the filing cabinet I hadn't touched in months. The heavy drawer that Amanda had never shown any curiosity about, never asked to see inside. The documents were exactly where I'd left them, organized in chronological order, dating back to 1995, Patterson Properties Group Incorporation papers. Property acquisition records spanning 27 years, bank statements showing account balances that would have shocked my daughter into silence. The Forbes magazine feature from 2 years ago, titled The Stealth Moguls of Texas Real Estate, with my photograph on page 71. I spread everything across my desk methodically and took high-resolution photos with my phone, making sure every number was clearly visible. Then, I opened a legal pad and wrote out a list of phone calls I needed to make, in order of priority. The machinery of consequence was about to be set in motion. Amanda had no idea what she'd just triggered. First call, Margaret Stone, my attorney for 25 years. She'd handled everything from my divorce to my business incorporation, and she had a talent for cutting through emotional noise to focus on legal realities. She picked up on the second ring. Rick, what's wrong? Your voice sounds different. Margaret, I need you to prepare some documents for me, and I need them prepared very quickly. What kind of documents are we talking about? The kind that teach my daughter the difference between inheritance and theft. Margaret was quiet for a long moment. I could hear her shifting papers in the background, probably reaching for a legal pad to take notes. Rick, how quickly is very quickly? I need everything ready within 24 hours. And Margaret, whatever you prepare needs to be absolutely ironclad from a legal standpoint. This situation is going to become very public, very soon. Understood. Send me whatever documentation prompted this call, and I'll have preliminary paperwork ready by tomorrow morning. Second call, James Parker, VP of Operations at Patterson Properties Group. James had been with me for 12 years, working his way up from property maintenance coordinator to essentially running day-to-day operations, while I focused on acquisitions and long-term strategy. Rick, good to hear from you. We weren't expecting to hear from you until next month's quarterly board meeting. Plans have changed, James. I need you to expedite the Lone Star development deal we've been discussing. Both Austin properties. Full asking price, cash only, with a closing timeline of 12 hours. 12 hours? James's voice went up an octave. Rick, that's barely possible even with cash buyers. The paperwork alone usually takes... I know it's possible because we've executed emergency sales before. Remember the portfolio liquidation in 2018 when the Henderson Group needed immediate capital? Same process, same urgency. That's true, but Rick, are you sure about this? Those Austin properties are prime assets. The ranch alone has appreciated 40% since you acquired it, and the apartment complex is generating consistent revenue. James, I've never been more certain of anything in my business career. Execute the sale. Both properties, cash close, 12-hour turnaround. Lone Star has been eager to acquire Hill Country assets, and they've got the liquidity to move fast. All right, I'll start making calls immediately. Should I ask why the sudden urgency? You'll understand everything by tomorrow evening. Just make sure the wire transfers are completed, and all documentation is filed with the, County before noon. Third call. Dr. Patricia Brown, the family therapist Amanda and I had seen briefly the year before when she'd complained that I didn't understand her generation's approach to financial planning. Dr. Brown had a practice specializing in family wealth dynamics, and she'd made several observations during our sessions that were about to become very relevant. Dr. Brown, this is Rick Patterson. I need to schedule an emergency session for tomorrow morning, and I need you to document everything we discuss in detail. Rick, of course. Is this related to the issues you and Amanda were working through regarding financial boundaries and generational expectations? Directly related. Doctor, do you remember our conversation about enabling behaviors versus teaching accountability? I do. You were concerned that supporting Amanda's lifestyle indefinitely might prevent her from developing genuine independence and financial responsibility. Tomorrow's session will likely be our last opportunity to address those concerns in a therapeutic setting. After that, Amanda will need to learn those lessons through direct experience rather than guided conversation. I understand. I can see you at 8 a.m. if that works with your schedule. Perfect. And doctor, please make detailed notes. There's a strong possibility that Amanda will need professional support to process what she's about to learn about herself and our family's actual financial situation. By sunset, all 3 calls had set irreversible processes in motion. Margaret was preparing legal documentation that would expose the truth about property ownership. James was executing property sales that would eliminate Amanda's assumed inheritance before she could claim it. Dr. Brown was clearing her schedule for what would probably be the most educational family therapy session of her career. I spent the evening reviewing financial statements and property records, organizing everything chronologically so the story would be easy to follow. 27 years of disciplined real estate investment, from my first duplex purchase in 1995 to the current portfolio of 180 properties across 6 states. The Forbes article that had profiled me as one of Texas's invisible moguls, bank statements showing liquid assets of $16 million and a net worth of $125 million. Amanda had no idea that the struggling retiree she was trying to help by taking his property was actually one of the most successful real estate investors in the Southwest. But she was about to find out in front of an audience that would make forgetting impossible. The dinner party was Tyler's idea. Just a small gathering, he'd told Amanda, close friends and family to celebrate our engagement announcement properly. What Tyler didn't realize was that he'd just provided the perfect setting for the most expensive education anyone in that room would ever receive. 25 people in my living room, drinking wine that cost more than my monthly truck payment, discussing oil markets and charity galas and vacation homes in Aspen. Amanda wore her new $35,000 engagement ring, the one Tyler had surprised her with that afternoon, and she spent the evening positioning herself strategically for Instagram photos, with the ring prominently displayed against the backdrop of our ranch. Our ranch. In every caption, every story, every post. I arrived exactly on time, carrying a bottle of wine from H-E-B that cost $18.99. The same wine I'd been bringing to family gatherings for years. The wine that had become a running joke among Amanda's friends about her father's inability to understand appropriate social standards. Tonight, that wine was going to serve a very different purpose. The revelation was about to begin. The engagement party was everything you'd expect from the merger of 2 wealthy Texas families. Crystal chandeliers casting warm light over my rustic living room, servers in white jackets circulating with champagne that cost more per bottle than most people spend on groceries in a month, and conversations that flowed effortlessly between oil futures, charity board positions, and summer homes in Martha's Vineyard. Amanda had transformed herself for the occasion. Her hair was professionally styled in an elaborate updo that probably cost $300. Her makeup applied by someone who understood how to make her look flawless under both natural light and camera flashes. She wore a champagne-colored dress that hugged her figure perfectly, paired with jewelry that caught the light every time she moved. She looked like she belonged in this world of casual luxury and inherited confidence. Tyler worked the room with the ease of someone who'd been attending parties like this since childhood. He had the oil executive's gift for making every conversation feel important, while simultaneously scanning the room for more important conversations to join. His watch, a Patek Philippe that cost more than most people's cars, caught the light as he gestured animatedly while discussing drilling rights in the Permian Basin. I watched from the kitchen doorway as Amanda positioned herself strategically throughout the evening, always within camera range, always at the perfect angle to show off her engagement ring against the backdrop of our ranch. Her Instagram stories were updating every 15 minutes. Candid shots of guests laughing, close-ups of the ring, sweeping views of the hill country through my floor-to-ceiling windows. The captions told a story. Family celebration at the ranch. So grateful for this next chapter. Home is where the heart is. Each post gathered hundreds of likes and comments within minutes, her followers celebrating her good fortune and commenting on the beautiful property that would obviously be hers someday. Dad, Amanda appeared at my elbow, her voice bright but with an underlying tension I recognized. You made it right on time. Wouldn't miss celebrating my daughter's engagement, I said, holding up the HEB wine bag. Congratulations. She accepted the wine with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, immediately handing it to one of the servers. Thank you so much. We'll just add this to the collection. Patricia Douglas materialized beside us as if summoned, her presence commanding immediate attention. She was everything you'd expect from the wife of a successful oil executive, impeccably dressed, socially confident, and possessed of the particular kind of charm that came from never having to worry about money. Her handshake was firm, her smile warm but assessing. You must be Amanda's father, she said, her voice carrying the slight drawl that marked her as Austin Old Money. We've heard so much about you. Thank you for hosting this lovely celebration. Hosting. In my own home. Tyler appeared with perfect timing, sliding an arm around Amanda's waist while extending his other hand to me. Rick, so glad you could make it. Amanda's been showing everyone around the property. Truly spectacular location. It's a special place, I agreed. Amanda tells us it's been in the family for generations, Patricia continued smoothly. These old Texas ranches have such wonderful history. I imagine you have some fascinating stories about growing up here. Growing up here, in a ranch I'd purchased in 2009 with money from a property development deal in San Antonio. Actually, I said carefully, I bought this place about 15 years ago. It wasn't a family property originally. Tyler's expression shifted slightly, confusion flickering across his features. Oh, I thought, Amanda mentioned it was inherited. Amanda's face had gone pale, her grip tightening on Tyler's arm. Dad's being modest. The ranch has been our family's base for years now. Our family's base, I repeated slowly. That's one way to put it. The conversation around us had begun to quiet, other guests subconsciously tuning in to the tension that was building in our small circle. Patricia Douglas had the social intelligence to recognize an uncomfortable family moment developing, but she also had the oil wife's inability to simply walk away from potential drama. Well, however it came into the family, it's absolutely beautiful, she said diplomatically. Amanda mentioned you're planning some renovations after the wedding. Amanda mentioned that, did she? My daughter's face had gone from pale to flushed, her jaw set in the stubborn line I remembered from her childhood tantrums. Dad, everyone knows about our plans. We've discussed this. Have we? I pulled out my phone and opened my photo gallery, scrolling to the screenshot I'd taken that morning. Is this part of those discussions? I held up the screen showing her Instagram story from 6:15 a.m., moving forward with family property decisions. Some people need to learn when it's time to step aside. New chapter. Yajan family first. Yas blessed. The comments below were a mix of heart emojis and encouragement. Yes, girl, take what's yours. Older generation needs to make room. Your ranch is going to be perfect for entertaining. Amanda stared at the phone screen like it contained evidence of a crime, which, in a way, it did. Amanda, I said quietly, loud enough for the growing circle of listeners to hear. You posted this from my kitchen this morning, about family property decisions and people needing to step aside. The room had gone significantly quieter now, conversations trailing off as more guests became aware that something interesting was happening in the kitchen area. I was just excited about our future, Amanda whispered. Our future, in my ranch. The moment of truth was approaching faster than anyone in that room could have imagined. Tyler cleared his throat, stepping slightly forward in what I recognized as a protective gesture. Rick, maybe we should take this conversation somewhere more private, should we? I looked around the room at the 23 faces now openly staring in our direction. Because, Tyler, you seemed very confident about property law 5 minutes ago when you were discussing inheritance rights with your mother. And Amanda's already shared our family property decisions with 450,000 Instagram followers. Seems like privacy sailed away around dawn this morning. Patricia Douglas set down her champagne glass with the careful precision of someone trying to maintain composure. Rick, I think there may be some misunderstanding here. Family property transitions can be emotionally complex, but surely we can work through this like reasonable adults. Reasonable adults, I repeated. Mrs. Douglas, let me ask you something. What do you think this ranch is worth? She glanced at Amanda, clearly hoping for guidance on whether this was a safe topic. Amanda mentioned around $2.8 million, I believe. It's a lovely property. And what do you think my annual income is? The question hung in the air like smoke. Patricia's smile became more strained, the social confidence wavering as she realized she was being led somewhere uncomfortable. I really couldn't speculate about personal finances. Please, take a guess, based on how I dress, what I drive, where I shop for wine. I gestured toward the HEB bag that had been discreetly hidden behind more expensive bottles. What do you think I make in a year? Amanda grabbed my arm, her manicured nails digging into my sleeve. Dad, please stop this. You're embarrassing yourself. How am I embarrassing myself by asking honest questions? Because everyone here understands how inheritance works, Patricia said, her voice taking on the patient tone wealthy people use when explaining obvious things to confuse poor people. It's very natural for someone to feel attached to family property, even when it's time to transition ownership to the next generation. Someone to feel attached, like I was a caretaker who had developed emotional connections beyond my station. Mrs. Douglas, I said, I've been paying property taxes on this ranch for 15 years. The taxes alone are $28,000 annually. Where do you think that money comes from? Tyler stepped in, his oil executive training kicking in as he tried to manage what was clearly becoming a public relations problem. Rick, your grandfather left you well provided for. The inheritance obviously covers basic property expenses. What inheritance are you referring to, Tyler? The room had gone completely quiet now. Even the servers had stopped moving, sensing that something significant was happening and not wanting to miss it by rattling glasses. Amanda's voice came out high and desperate. Dad, everyone knows about Grandpa's will. You don't need to pretend. Amanda, your grandfather died in 1987. I was 25 years old. He left me his pickup truck and his fishing tackle. That's it. Tyler's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Patricia Douglas looked like she'd been slapped. Then how? Tyler started, then stopped. How have I been maintaining a $2.8 million property for 15 years? How have I been paying Amanda's $12,000 monthly rent on that Dallas penthouse? How did I afford the $45,000 Birkin bag for her graduation? Or the $125,000 Range Rover lease that comes out of my account every month? Amanda had gone completely white. The engagement ring on her finger caught the light as her hand trembled. Dad, stop! How did I pay for the private schools, the spring break trips to Europe, the credit cards with no limits, the lifestyle that convinced Tyler's family that Amanda comes from their social class? The silence was so complete, I could hear the grandfather clock ticking in the hallway. You're all very curious about my finances now, I continued, so let me satisfy that curiosity. Mrs. Douglas, you asked about inheritance. Would you like to know what I actually inherited? Patricia Douglas looked like she wanted to disappear. I inherited a work ethic from my father, who was a Marine Corps engineer. I inherited an understanding of construction and property values from working construction jobs to pay for college. And I inherited enough sense to recognize opportunity when the Texas real estate market crashed in the early 1990s. Tyler found his voice. Rick, what are you saying? I'm saying that the struggling retiree you've all been so eager to help manage his finances a little better has been managing them just fine. Thank you. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number everyone in the room could hear ringing through the speaker. Margaret, it's Rick. I need you to walk me through something in front of witnesses. Margaret Stone's voice came through clear and professional. Of course, Rick. What can I help clarify? Amanda looked like she was going to be sick. Margaret, if someone purchased a property with their own money 15 years ago, and their adult child started publicly claiming inheritance rights to that property, what would you call that? I'd call it a potential fraud case, depending on the circumstances and the public statements involved. Tyler went pale. Now, wait just a minute. And Margaret, I continued, what if that same person had their child's fiancé's father draw up legal documents threatening the actual property owner with formal proceedings if they didn't voluntarily surrender their own property? Rick, depending on the specific language and circumstances, that could constitute attempted extortion or coercion. The room was dead silent except for Margaret's voice coming through the phone speaker. And Margaret, what if the actual property owner had documentation proving not only their purchase of the disputed property, but ownership of a substantial real estate portfolio that the claimants know nothing about? Margaret's voice sharpened with interest. Rick, are we talking about the Patterson Properties Group portfolio? Patterson Properties Group? The name hit the room like a physical force. I watched as several faces around me showed signs of recognition, the kind of delayed understanding that comes when a familiar business name suddenly connects to an unexpected context. Amanda stared at me with the expression of someone watching their entire reality crumble in real time. What's Patterson Properties Group? Margaret, I said into the phone. Would you mind explaining to everyone what Patterson Properties Group is? Margaret's voice carried the professional authority of someone who'd spent decades in Texas real estate law. Patterson Properties Group is a luxury rental property management company founded in 1995. They own and operate over 180 premium properties across Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Colorado, New Mexico, and Louisiana. Current portfolio value is approximately $125 million, with annual revenues in the $18–20 million range. Tyler's champagne glass slipped from his fingers, shattering on my hardwood floor. The sound seemed to snap everyone back to attention. And Margaret, I continued, who founded Patterson Properties Group? You did, Rick. You're the founding CEO and primary shareholder. I hung up the phone. The silence that followed was so absolute I could hear cars passing on the road half a mile away. Amanda's voice came out as barely a whisper. That's not possible. Which part isn't possible, sweetheart? You drive a 12-year-old truck. You shop at Walmart. You brought $18 wine to my engagement party. I also own the office building where Tyler's father has his law practice. Tyler made a sound like someone had punched him in the stomach, and the headquarters building, where Patricia's interior design firm leases their showroom space. Patricia Douglas gripped the back of a chair, her knuckles white against the leather, and the hotel where you and Tyler had your first date, the Driscoll downtown. Property number 47 in the Patterson Properties portfolio. Amanda sat down hard on my couch, her engagement ring catching the light as her hands shook. This isn't real. I walked to my office and returned with the folder I'd prepared earlier, bank statements from First National Trust. As of yesterday's close, liquid assets total $16 million. I placed the first document on the coffee table where everyone could see it. Several guests moved closer, drawn by the same morbid curiosity that makes people slow down to look at car accidents. Forbes magazine, March 2023, issue. I opened to page 71. The Phantom Moguls of Texas Real Estate. There's my photograph. They called me one of the invisible kings of hill country property investment. Amanda grabbed the magazine, her hands trembling as she stared at a professional photo of me, standing in front of one of my downtown Austin properties. The headline read, Richard Patterson, the $125 million man who drives a $3,000 truck. Property acquisition records for the past 27 years. I spread several documents across the table. 180 properties purchased, renovated, and converted to luxury short-term rentals and corporate housing. Average return on investment, 28% annually. I pulled out my phone and opened the Patterson Properties Management app. This is our real-time dashboard. Current occupancy rate across all properties, 87%. Today's gross revenue? I scrolled to the daily summary. 42,047. Patricia Douglas had gone completely pale. You made $42,000 today? Good day. Summer vacation season? Yesterday was only $38,000. Tyler found his voice, though it came out strangled. Rick, That's impossible. You're a handyman. Amanda told us you used to fix things for people. I still fix things, Tyler. I buy broken properties and turn them into profitable businesses. I've been doing it for 27 years. Amanda was reading the Forbes article with the intensity of someone trying to decode a foreign language. Dad, this article says you've created over 300 jobs and generated more than $8 million in annual tax revenue for local communities. The property management business employs a lot of people. Cleaning crews, maintenance teams, landscapers, security companies, contractors. When you own 180 properties, you become a significant employer, whether you plan to or not. It says here, you've never taken a salary from Patterson Properties Group, that you reinvest every penny back into acquisitions and employee benefits. Why would I need a salary? The business generates enough cash flow to cover all my personal expenses. Taking money out would just create unnecessary tax complications. Amanda looked up from the magazine, tears starting to form in her eyes. Dad, this article says you've been anonymously funding college scholarships for the children of your employees. Good employees are hard to find. Investing in their families is investing in the business long term. How much? How much what? How much have you spent on scholarships? I pulled out another folder. $850,000 over the past 12 years. 43 kids so far. Engineers, teachers, nurses, business majors, even a few artists and musicians. 5 of them work for Patterson Properties now. Amanda was crying openly now, mascara creating dark trails down her cheeks. Dad, I tried to steal your ranch. You tried to steal one of my ranches. How many ranches do you own that I don't know about? I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Amanda, you know about exactly 2 properties in my portfolio, this ranch and your Dallas apartment building. Her face went white again. You own my apartment building? I bought the Meridian Towers complex 3 years ago when the previous owner was raising rents and evicting long-term tenants. I thought you'd be more comfortable if I controlled your housing situation. Amanda put her head in her hands. Oh my God. Amanda, there's something else you need to know. She looked up, and I could see in her eyes that she was beginning to understand the magnitude of her miscalculation. I don't own these properties anymore. The color drained completely from her face. What do you mean? I mean, I sold them. Yesterday morning. Both this ranch and your apartment building. Amanda stood up so quickly she knocked over her champagne glass. You sold my apartment? I sold everything you thought was yours. The new owners take possession at noon today. Tyler grabbed Amanda's arm. What does that mean? I checked my watch. It means you have about 6 hours to pack. At exactly 7:00 a.m. that morning, my phone rang. I answered it on speaker, knowing that everyone in the room needed to hear what came next. Rick, it's James Parker. Everything's completed exactly as you requested. Amanda was staring at my phone like it was a live grenade. James, can you walk everyone through the timeline for the property sales? Of course. Both properties sold to Lone Star Development Group. Sale contracts were executed at 6:03 a.m. Wire transfers totaling $5.2 million were completed at 6:18 a.m. Property transfers have been filed with Travis County, and possession notices are being served as we speak. Tyler grabbed Amanda's shoulder. Lone Star Development? Rick, that's our biggest competitor. I know exactly who they are, Tyler. They offered full asking price with cash and a 12-hour closing timeline. In business, that's what we call an offer you don't refuse. James, I continued, can you explain to everyone what Lone Star Development plans to do with the properties? Certainly. The Hill Country Ranch will be converted into a corporate retreat center for their executive team and major clients. The apartment complex will undergo complete renovation and conversion to luxury condominiums. Current tenants have been given a 90-day relocation timeline as required by Texas law. Amanda's legs gave out. She collapsed back onto the couch, her face the color of ash. 90 days? Actually, Amanda, you have 90 days. The lease termination notice should be in your mailbox by now. Tyler's oil executive composure finally cracked completely. Rick, this is insane. You can't just destroy people's lives because you're angry about a family disagreement. Destroy people's lives? I looked around the room at 23 faces watching this unfold. Tyler, let me ask you something. How much money do you think I've spent supporting Amanda's lifestyle over the past 6 years? Tyler opened his mouth, then closed it. I'll tell you. Rent, $12,000 per month times 72 months equals $864,000. Living expenses, $2,500 per month times 72 months equals $180,000. Discretionary spending, shopping, travel, entertainment, average $3,000 per month, so another $216,000. Credit card payments average one that is $800 monthly, so $129,600. Car lease and insurance, $100 monthly for $108,800. I paused to let the math sink in. Total financial support over 6 years, $1,490,400, nearly $1.5 million. Patricia Douglas made a choking sound. And Tyler, during those 6 years, how many times do you think Amanda called me just to ask how I was doing? Not to request money, not to invite me to something where I could be useful, just to check on her father's well-being? The silence stretched uncomfortably long. I'll save you the trouble of guessing. 0 times, 0 calls, 0 texts, 0 emails. The only communication I received from my daughter was requests for money and complaints about how I embarrassed her in front of her friends. Amanda was sobbing now, her carefully applied makeup running down her face in dark streaks. But Dad, she managed between sobs, I didn't know. I thought the money came from where, Amanda? Where exactly did you think $1.5 million came from? What story did you tell yourself to make it make sense? I thought, Grandpa's inheritance. I thought you were just managing family money. Amanda, even if your grandfather had left me money, which he didn't, how would you justify spending someone else's inheritance without ever asking permission? How would you rationalize assuming control of assets that weren't yours? Tyler tried to intervene. Rick, maybe we can work something out. My family has resources. We could arrange financing for Amanda to purchase alternative housing, or we could discuss some kind of payment plan. With what income, Tyler? Her influencer income, brand partnerships, sponsored content, affiliate marketing. Amanda generates substantial revenue from her online presence. Amanda winced visibly. Tyler, I lost 60,000 followers yesterday. My engagement rate has dropped by 40%. 3 major brands have already terminated their contracts. What do you mean you lost followers? I mean, the Instagram live breakdown I had last night has been turned into compilation videos across every platform, entitled Influencer Tries to Steal Dad's House. Rich Girl Meltdown Goes Viral. When privilege meets reality, they're everywhere. Tyler pulled out his phone and started scrolling frantically. His face went pale as he found the videos Amanda was talking about. Amanda, these videos have millions of views. People are calling you the poster child for millennial entitlement. I know. Fashion Nova, Revolve, and Daniel Wellington all sent termination emails this morning. Sugar Bear Hair called it a brand alignment issue. Even smaller affiliate programs are dropping me. Patricia Douglas had been quietly scrolling through her own phone during this exchange. She looked up with the expression of someone who just received terrible news. Rick, I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer honestly. Of course, the office building where Douglas and Associates has our practice. You said you own it? I do. Our lease comes up for renewal in 6 months. I'm aware of that. Patricia's voice became very careful. Given the circumstances of this evening and the legal papers my husband sent you, should we be concerned about that renewal? The room went completely silent. Everyone understood that Patricia Douglas had just asked whether Tyler's family's law practice was about to lose its office space because of the property theft attempt. Mrs. Douglas, I've always been a reasonable landlord. I believe in honoring contractual obligations and treating tenants fairly, regardless of personal circumstances. But I also believe that actions have consequences. Your family tried to use legal intimidation to force me out of my own property. Your son participated in an attempt to steal a $2.8 million ranch, and you offered to pay my moving expenses because you assumed I was too poor to afford them. I paused to let the implications settle. So, while I won't break any existing lease agreements, I think we can safely assume that Douglas and Associates will want to start looking for new office space well before your current lease expires. Amanda's phone started buzzing insistently. She looked at the screen and went even paler, if that was possible. It's Tyler's father, she whispered. Answer it, I said. Put it on speaker. She swiped to accept the call, her hands shaking so badly she nearly dropped the phone. "Amanda, what in God's name has your father done?" Cameron Douglas's voice came through the speaker with the fury of a man who just received the worst business news of his career. Tyler stepped closer to the phone. "Dad, we're still at the ranch. Everyone can hear you." "Good. Maybe someone can explain to me why I just received a call from Lone Star Development Group, informing me that they now own every piece of prime Austin real estate that our family has been trying to acquire for the past decade." "Mr. Douglas," I said loudly enough for the phone to pick up my voice, "this is Rick Patterson. I sold the properties to buyers who met my terms. If that creates business complications for your family, perhaps you should have made competitive offers when you had the opportunity. Rick, this is a deliberate sabotage of our business interests. You sold those properties to our primary competitors specifically to damage Douglas and Associates. Actually, Mr. Douglas, I sold them because Lone Star offered full asking price with cash and immediate closing. In real estate, we call that good business. This is unconscionable. You're punishing Amanda because your feelings were hurt by a simple property management discussion. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm selling my property to qualified buyers. The fact that Amanda assumed she owned property that belonged to me is her problem to solve, not mine." Cameron Douglas's voice got dangerously quiet. "Rick, my son is engaged to your daughter. We're going to be family. Surely we can work through this like reasonable people. Were we being reasonable when your firm sent me legal documents threatening formal proceedings if I didn't voluntarily surrender my own property? Was it reasonable when your wife offered to pay my moving expenses because she assumed I couldn't afford them myself?" The silence on the phone stretched uncomfortably long. "Furthermore," I continued, "Amanda just lost 60,000 Instagram followers and multiple brand partnerships because she publicly attempted to steal my house. Tyler is standing in my living room, realizing that his fiance's family situation isn't what he thought it was. Does this sound like the foundation for a stable family merger to you?" "Dad," Tyler said into the phone, his voice strained, "we need to talk. Privately." "Tyler, come home immediately." "Amanda, I think it would be best if you didn't accompany him." Amanda made a sound like a wounded animal. "Mr. Douglas, please. This is all just a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding? Amanda, you publicly accused your father of being a financial burden and demanded he vacate his own property so you could move in with my son. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a complete failure of character judgment." Tyler took the phone from Amanda. "Dad, I can explain everything." "Tyler, the only explanation I need is why you didn't verify the basic facts about Amanda's family situation before proposing marriage. Did it never occur to you to wonder how a man with no apparent income was maintaining a $2.8 million property and funding your fiance's luxury lifestyle?" Tyler looked around the room helplessly. "I thought—" "Amanda said her grandfather left family money. And you believe that without any verification? Son, we raised you to be smarter than this." Patricia Douglas, who had been silent during most of the phone call, finally spoke up. "Cameron, perhaps we should discuss this at home. Patricia, are you aware that Rick owns our office building?" The room went completely silent. "He what?" "Our lease expires in 6 months. Rick has just made it very clear that Douglas and Associates will be looking for new office space." Patricia made a strangled noise. "Cameron, our lease renewal is almost certainly going to be denied." "Yes. The property management company that handles our building is Patterson Properties Group." Amanda was crying so hard now that her entire body was shaking. Tyler put an arm around her, but his gesture looked more obligatory than comforting. "Tyler," his father continued, "I need you to come home immediately so we can discuss the business implications of this situation. Amanda, I think it would be best if you use this time to figure out your living arrangements for her after your lease expires." "Mr. Douglas," Amanda managed between sobs, "please don't do this. Tyler and I love each other. Amanda, my family has worked for 3 generations to build our business reputation. We cannot afford to be associated with someone who publicly attempted to defraud their own father, regardless of personal feelings." Tyler looked like he was going to be sick. "Dad, are you saying—" "I'm saying that the engagement needs to be reconsidered, given the circumstances that have come to light this evening." Amanda grabbed Tyler's arm. "Tyler, you can't be serious. We're engaged. We have plans." Tyler looked around the room at 23 faces watching him, make the most important decision of his personal life in front of an audience. His oil executive training was clearly at war with whatever feelings he had for Amanda. Amanda, I need time to process all of this. The property situation, the financial deception, the social media disaster. This isn't what I signed up for. What you signed up for? Amanda's voice went shrill. Tyler, I'm the same person I was yesterday. No, you're not. Yesterday I thought you were an independent woman with a family property and a successful social media career. Today I find out you've been living entirely on your father's money while publicly humiliating him and attempting to steal his property. Amanda stared at him in disbelief. So you're breaking up with me? Because my father embarrassed me? I'm breaking up with you because you embarrassed yourself, and because my family can't be associated with this level of public scandal. Tyler pulled the engagement ring off Amanda's finger with the efficiency of someone who'd made an irreversible business decision. I'll send someone to collect my things from your apartment, assuming you still have access to it for the next 90 days. Amanda left the party without saying goodbye to anyone. She stumbled out to her Range Rover with Tyler's engagement ring clutched in her fist. Her makeup streaked down her face, and 23 people watching her realized that the life she'd built was completely fake. The remaining guests found excuses to leave within 20 minutes, and by 10 p.m. I was alone in my ranch with empty wine glasses scattered around, and the satisfaction of watching entitled people discover that actions have consequences. At 11:45 p.m., my phone started buzzing with Instagram notifications. I opened the app and found myself watching my daughter have the most public nervous breakdown in social media history. She was sitting in her Range Rover in what looked like a Walmart parking lot, tears streaming down her face while her followers typed rapid-fire comments in the live chat. The viewer count was climbing by the hundreds every minute as people shared the stream, drawn by the spectacle of someone melting down in real time. You guys, Amanda's voice was thick with tears. I don't even know where to start. My whole life has been a lie. My dad has been pretending to be poor this entire time. The comments exploded across the screen. What? OMG. Amanda, tell us everything. This is better than reality TV. Like, he's apparently worth $125 million. $125 million. And he let me think he was some broke retiree who could barely afford his property taxes. More comments flooded in. Your dad is rich? Why would he hide that? Rich dads are the worst. Amanda wiped her nose with the back of her hand, smearing her makeup even more. He owns like 180 properties across 6 states. He's been in Forbes magazine. Forbes. And I've been paying for dinners because I thought he couldn't afford them. The viewer count hit 35,000 and was climbing fast. Someone had obviously started sharing the stream across other platforms. And the worst part? He's been charging people rent to stay at our ranch. Our ranch that I thought was family property. Like Jenny, my photographer friend, she's been paying $4,500 a month to stay in the guest house. $4,500. And my dad never told me. Tyler appeared briefly in the frame, looking defeated and uncomfortable. Amanda, maybe you shouldn't be doing this live. No, Tyler. Actually, Tyler just broke up with me, on camera, in front of 25 people, because apparently my dad owns the building where Tyler's family has their law office, and now they think I'm some kind of fraud. The viewer count reached 42,000. People were definitely recording this and posting it everywhere. And you know what else? My dad has been testing me this whole time, watching me make assumptions about his money, letting me plan my future around inheriting his ranch, just waiting for me to reveal what kind of person I really am. She was sobbing now, the kind of ugly crying that destroys any pretense of social media polish. And I failed. I completely failed. I tried to steal my own father's ranch because I thought he was too poor and too stupid to stop me. The comments section was split between sympathy and brutal honesty. Girl, this is hard to watch versus you literally tried to steal his house versus your dad sounds like a legend versus this is what privilege looks like when it crashes. Tyler's dad sent legal papers to my father. Legal papers threatening him if he didn't give up his own ranch. And my dad just let us do it. He let us make complete fools of ourselves in front of everyone. 48,000 viewers now, and the comments were coming so fast, they were impossible to read. Tyler, tell them what your mom said about paying my dad's moving expenses. Tyler tried to lean out of frame. Amanda, please stop. Tyler's mom offered to pay my dad's moving expenses because she assumed he was too poor to handle them himself. My dad, who owns their office building. My dad, who could buy their entire oil company and not notice the money missing from his account. The live chat had devolved into chaos, with people spamming everything from heart emojis to skull emojis to fire symbols. You know what? The really pathetic part is, he pays for everything in my life. Everything. My apartment, my car, my credit cards, my lifestyle, my entire existence. And I convinced myself I deserved it. Because he was just some lucky guy who inherited a ranch. 52,000 viewers. This was officially viral. I posted this morning about family property decisions and people needing to step aside. I told 450,000 people that my poor old dad needed to make room for the next generation. Look at these comments from this morning. She held up her phone, showing the screenshot of supportive comments. Yes, girl, take what's yours. Boomers need to learn when to retire. That ranch is wasted on old people. I encouraged almost 500,000 people to say horrible things about my father who has been anonymously paying college tuition for the children of his employees. My father who employs over 300 people across 6 states. My father who gives more money to charity in a month than I spend on handbags in a year. The viewer count hit 58,000, and I could see people in the comments saying they were screen recording everything. And now, I have to move out of my apartment in 90 days because, surprise, my dad owns that building too, and he sold it today. Today. While I was getting my nails done and planning my engagement party, my dad was selling every piece of property I thought belonged to me. Tyler was trying to get out of the car now, but Amanda grabbed his arm. Tyler's family won't even let him be seen with me anymore because this whole thing has become a business liability. 3 generations of oil money, and I managed to destroy their reputation in one dinner party. The comments were getting increasingly harsh. This is actually sad, girl. You need therapy. Delete this before it gets worse. Your dad deserves better. I called my father worthless. I called him a has-been. I told him he didn't deserve to live in his own ranch. And tomorrow morning, I have to figure out how to survive on the $340 I have in my checking account, because he cut off all my credit cards and bank transfers. 64,000 viewers watched my daughter destroy what remained of her public image in real time. Amanda looked directly into the camera one final time, her face streaked with mascara and genuine remorse. If you're watching this, Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, and I understand if you never forgive me. She ended the stream. 64,000 people had just watched my daughter destroy her own reputation in the most complete and public way possible. By sunrise, the life she'd known was over. Amanda showed up at my new house 3 weeks later. I'd bought a modest 2-bedroom place in South Austin, something I could renovate with my own hands, something that felt like a home instead of an investment. She looked different, wearing jeans from Target and a t-shirt from H&M, the only clothes that actually belonged to her. Her hair was in a simple ponytail, no professional styling. Her nails were unpolished. She looked like a normal 32-year-old instead of a professional influencer. Dad, can we talk? Of course. She sat down across from me on the small patio. I got a job. Oh? Coffee shop in South Austin. Minimum wage, but it's something. I start Monday. How did you find it? I walked in and asked if they were hiring. Turns out it's that simple when you're not too proud to work. Her Instagram live breakdown had been clipped and shared across every platform by people who couldn't believe what they had witnessed. TikTok compilations, Twitter threads, YouTube reaction videos. My daughter's meltdown had become the internet's cautionary tale about entitlement and privilege. Amanda pulled a folded piece of paper from her pocket. I also wrote something. I wanted to read it to you. Okay. She unfolded the paper. Her hands weren't shaking anymore. Dad, 3 weeks ago I tried to steal your ranch because I thought I deserved it more than you did. I thought you were a failure who got lucky and I was a success who got cheated. I was wrong about everything. She looked up at me, then back at the paper. I spent 32 years taking everything you gave me and never once asking what it cost you. Not just money, time, energy, choices you didn't make, because you were busy taking care of me. I never said thank you because I thought you owed me everything. Amanda's voice got steadier as she continued. I learned something these past 3 weeks. I learned that I don't know how to do anything. I can't budget money because I never had to think about money. I can't cook because I always order delivery. I can't clean because I always had cleaning services. I can't solve problems because you always solve them for me. She folded the paper and looked at me directly. I'm not asking you to take me back. I'm not asking for money or help or anything else. I'm asking for a chance to learn how to be someone you could be proud of. Amanda, what does that look like? I don't know yet, but I know what it doesn't look like. It doesn't look like trying to take things that aren't mine. It doesn't look like expecting other people to pay for my choices. And it doesn't look like treating you like you owe me something just because you're my father. Amanda stood up. I know you probably can't forgive me, and I know saying sorry doesn't fix what I did, but I wanted you to know that I understand now why you did what you did. What do you understand? You didn't punish me, you taught me, you showed me what my choices actually cost, and you gave me a chance to learn who I am when nobody's paying my way. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. For the first time in years, I saw someone I recognized. Amanda, would you like to have dinner next week? Her face lit up. Really? Really? But you're paying. She laughed, the first genuine laugh I'd heard from her since she was a teenager. Dad, I make minimum wage now. Then we're going somewhere that serves minimum wage food. Deal. Amanda headed toward her used Honda Civic, the $2,800 car she'd bought with her first week's tips, then turned back. Dad, thank you for everything. Even the hard parts, especially the hard parts. After she left, I sat on my small patio and watched the sunset. The eviction notice had been served exactly as promised. Amanda's Instagram account had never recovered, down to 180,000 followers and falling. Her brand partnerships were gone, her influencer career finished. Tyler had married someone else 6 months later, a quiet ceremony that made the society pages without any drama. But something interesting had happened in those 3 weeks of Amanda working at the coffee shop. She'd started posting different content, not lifestyle photos or product placements, but honest discussions about learning to live on minimum wage, budgeting tips for people starting over, and reflections on what she'd learned about work, respect, and family. Her new followers were different too. Not teenagers aspiring to her old lifestyle, but people who related to her journey of learning responsibility. Comments like, "Thank you for being real about this," and "Your honesty is helping me too," started replacing the previous worship and envy. The coffee shop owner, Maria Gonzalez, had mentioned that Amanda was their most reliable employee, always on time, never complained about difficult customers, stayed late when needed. Maria was thinking about promoting her to shift supervisor. Amanda had also started attending community college at night, using financial aid for the first time in her life. Business classes, she'd told me, she wanted to understand how companies actually worked instead of just consuming what they produced. 6 months after that conversation on my patio, we were having dinner at Cracker Barrel. Amanda's choice, paid for with money she'd earned. She looked tired, but satisfied in a way I hadn't seen since she was a child, proud of a school project. "Dad, I've been thinking about something." "What's that?" "I want to understand what you built, not to take it or inherit it, but to learn from it. Would you teach me about real estate investment?" I smiled. "We can start with how to buy your first duplex." "With what money?" Amanda laughed. "With money you save from your shift supervisor salary and the part-time bookkeeping work you're going to start next month." Amanda looked confused. "What bookkeeping work?" Maria asked if I knew anyone reliable who could help with her business finances. I recommended someone I know who's been learning about hard work and personal responsibility. For the first time in years, I felt like I'd done something right as a father.